Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Long Hill Report, February edition. We've got Steeves,
Hello, how are you all?
Richard Morchoe, and welcome. It's a rainy, drizzly day, and it's sort of been a rainy, drizzly few weeks.
Yeah, pretty close, yeah.
So we're looking forward to a tad more sun this month.
That would be nice.
We're living in hope, which is probably delusional in this case. Speaking of living in hope
And delusion.
and delusional, I saw something today on Twitter. Supposedly through U.S., through intermediaries, the Swiss embassy, intimated to Iran that we'd planned to strike one of their sites, but Iran should not retaliate. This would allow us to save face.
I saw that.
Iran didn't buy it.
Of course not. Common
And
sense is they wouldn't buy it. Any working brains that wouldn't do that.
What were we thinking?
The problem is we weren't.
What were we thinking?
And this goes back to your we thing. We weren't part of that at all.
See, there is no we.
There is
Anyway,
a we, but it's not us.
Well, there are we's, but there's no vast grand we. It was rejected.
As
U.S.
common
keeps
sense
saying,
would.
"Oh, we don't want a wider war."
And the Iranians say that too.
Yeah,
And I don't think that. And I think generally speaking, that's probably true. But if that's the case, then why do we keep acting like we want one?
well,
We keep expanding the war.
the Iranians said, "We don't want one, but we're going to oppose you."
Yeah. If you attack us, I mean, that's what they would do. So that's what a defensive military is for. It's to defend themselves.
The question is now, there is two places, one in Jordan, one in Syria.
Yeah.
The one in Syria, we under Trump, we took that place.
Mm-hmm.
Was no declaration of war, no authorization.
No.
Nobody wanted it. Trump said, I am keeping the oil safe. It was, of course, ridiculous. The whole thing was ridiculous. And
So
here
is.
we are stuck there, and we are shocked that people oppose us.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a very interesting Substack fellow, Stephen Bryan. He's been in the government, and he knows a lot about military weapons
Okay.
and force structure and everything.
Okay.
And I always compliment his knowledge, but he says, like, with the Houthis, when they start attacking
Mm-hmm.
the shipping and everything, he says, that is a violation of international law. We should strike them. And I said, look at, they're still going to, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. Well, I won't like it when they get really hit hard.
Mm-hmm. Nobody
These
ever does,
people
but-
have been at this forever,
Yeah.
have suffered so much, and nothing stops them.
No.
They might not like it, but the question is, took 10 years to lose Vietnam. It took 20 years to lose Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't what you don't like, it's how long you are willing to last.
Right.
We ain't willing to last. Okay, we did 10 and 20. We ain't willing to last 30. We won't even have a country if we start doing 30-year wars. And Stephen's polite to me. He's a gentleman, but he doesn't really. He says. I asked him, well, I made the point we should pursue bring everything home, pursue a neutralist foreign policy. I don't see how that would work. You just don't be anywhere.
The problem is we've never tried it. How would we know?
Yeah. Well, even if it is, I mean, what do you have to work? We're not working something.
Maybe. I mean, I think if he's going to make a point of international law, technically, I suppose he's correct. However, if you look at all of the other stuff that's been going on, raising the international law flag is total hypocrisy.
Well,
because we've been violating international law for years
wait a
now.
minute, wait a minute, wait a minute.
Being in sea
Wait
is
a
one
minute.
of the things.
We're just trying to uphold a world.
The
order.
rules-based
Rules-based
international order, which is a lot of nonsense.
It is so foul. I can say nothing about it other than it is.
It's propaganda and it's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Because it's written specifically to give a giant finger to international law that's recognized by everyone else.
I disagree with that. You know what it is? It's propaganda for the American people to make them think we're doing actually something good.
Oh, I agree. It is. I agree with that. I agree with that.
I don't think anybody in the state or anywhere in the world suspects anybody believes rules-based order is anything but a scam. It's just.
Oh, I agree with that. I
it's just
totally
to
agree with that.
convince us.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
But it also gives them carte blanche to violate international law. As they see it. Nobody else agrees with that, but that's what they say.
It only gives them carte blanche to do that until they get a black eye.
Well, yeah, and that could be coming very soon.
All right, if I had to predict, I'm going to ask you basically the same question. We'll give it a 3-month term here. I will predict that we might. If there's anybody at state that has any brains, they have hold of the microphone at state, might say we can't do this, and somebody may listen. That's one thing.
Okay.
But if we do something, it will. And I heard we were talking about doing something for a few weeks or something.
Do you mean in Iran?
In Iran.
They were specifically talking about that. They specifically said, from what I understand, they specifically told NBC that they were planning airstrikes for several weeks on Iranian interests. Although
they didn't say in Iran.
It's
in Iran.
It's kind of vague, which is what they usually do.
So when they do one, and the all Islamic force for fighting the Western godless, or whatever. You call it anything.
They call
it anything.
Yeah.
And they bomb another place in Syria or Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes tit for tat.
Yep.
It might go for, so I said 3 months or so. It might go on and happen, but it's going to be a disaster, and we will be faced with fish or cut bait.
Yeah.
Do we go all out, or do we declare victory and leave? Or we just declare victory and hunker down? That's what's going to happen to my.
I think that's probably true for the most part. Exactly where, I don't know. I mean, it does seem like there's some pushback on the whole idea of doing anything direct against Iran. However, there's also strong forces within our government who have always wanted to take out Iran. Oh, it's not working? We've got Lindsey Graham, like every 3 weeks, says we should be bombing Iran. That guy needs to be put in a straitjacket, seriously. But along with most of the others.
Well, that actually should be a test of sanity.
I agree.
The question becomes, a psychologist calls you in, and we have questions about your sanity stuff. Answer me one question. Do you think Lindsey Graham is a stark raving moron? And if you answer wrong, you are going into the padded cell. Boom!
Well, the problem is he's not a moron, but he's a psychopath. That's the problem.
I think he's a moron.
He's a lunatic.
I don't think, I think in any other state, he wouldn't be a senator.
That's probably true.
I think he became a senator, and he sort of kept on going because of seniority. And I lived in the South, such that I know that seniority is a very big thing to Southern voters because it gets you another military base.
Right. Well, that could be said for the reasons why a lot of our people are senior. I've been there for a long time, like Richard Neal, or even McGovern.
Yeah,
They've been there for a long time. They're
that's
very much senior representatives.
that's kind of inertial with them.
It happens all the time. Yeah.
And it's also inertial, I guess, with Lindsay.
Sure.
But Lindsay probably gets you more facilities.
Probably true to some degree.
Richie hasn't done that much for really.
No, I don't think so.
So I mean, he just does who's the other guy, Markey thing.
Yeah.
He just says blah 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 blah, and that's it.
And speaking of both Neil and Markey and Warren, I sent them all an email today, and posted it on a green list. And I think it's getting to the point where this whole situation in the Middle East it's time for, before we end up in a situation where we have to do the fish or cut bait like you just suggested, we need to be as American citizens and get our congressmen in place to actually do their jobs and impeach this fool.
Now, wait a minute. Elizabeth Warren is always saying something. Just because
they're all always saying
she's
something,
saying
whether it means
something
anything or not, it doesn't matter.
She's not saying something about the war, but
No.
I mean, she's just a nice lady who gamed the system royally to get where she is.
I'm not referring to them. I'm saying we should be impeaching Biden.
Wait a minute. Everything is Trump. What do you mean? You just said Biden without saying Trump.
We should never have had Trump. He should be gone too. But we should be impeaching Biden because he's the guy currently in the office.
Yes.
And he starts wars without congressional authorization, and he basically says, "So what? Basically, do whatever you want. I don't care what you think. I'm going to do it anyway."
He asked the question, and his response was, "Are we going to continue bombing?" Yes.
Yep. Will it work? No.
Is it working?
No.
No. Will it work? No.
Of course not. They can't even find the places where they're launching the missiles from, or their drones. I mean, because how can you? It's no more effective to go after Houthis launching drones from the back of pickup trucks than it was to go after the Mujahideen in the back of pickup trucks. It's just as effective. Zero.
No, it's not.
It's totally ridiculous. We're in exactly the same situation, except the desert's a different desert.
Yeah. Well, I see this as continuing,
Oh, it is. Very much so.
but I see it sooner or later. We are going to nuclear war. Sooner or later.
I hope not, obviously. Most of us don't want that.
No, I hope so.
None of us want that.
I hope no. I hope so.
Obviously.
Obviously, I hope not too.
Right, obviously none of us want
But
that.
I mean, just saying I hope not. Everything. Nope. Don't say. I got to be thinking. What am I thinking?
Oh, yeah. I get that. Yeah.
And
I think the chances get higher and higher every couple of weeks, yeah. I mean,
Which-
somebody keeps lighting a match over here and hoping it'll ignite and then it burns out, and they'll light a match over here and hope it ignites and then it burns out. And
Well-
then, one of these days, the analogy I can think of is, do you remember that ridiculous giant coal seam fire in Pennsylvania that's been burning for like 50 years now? Because somebody accidentally started a fire and it literally burned into the ground. And now it's burning forever. It will basically burn for the next centuries. That's exactly the situation we're in the Middle East. They keep lighting something and eventually they're going to find something that will burn.
that's
Why we need to get rid of these people now.
well, no. I'm getting rid of them. It's devoutly to be wished. Unless, and I've actually with Stevens' articles and other people's articles, when I wrote on Stevens that this is actually you're arguing for a neutralist foreign policy,
Yeah,
and he
right.
said, but other people there have written and said you're right, and I got to convert the world to in which I can't do, but a neutralist foreign policy. And there's other
would be
Bill
helpful.
Store. You know who
That would be
Bill
helpful.
Store is?
Who?
Bill Store.
Oh, yeah. I read his
And
lecture.
I quoted. I've said in that this last one. I said, Bill, I love what you write. It's an argument for neutralism.
Yeah.
And,
Basically.
and the thing is, that's our only hope. I mean, it isn't the only hope of the world, because maybe then Russia and China will start a nuclear war by themselves, on each other.
I don't think they will.
well,
They
it doesn't
seem-
matter.
I think we pushed them together to the point where now they're much more willing to cooperate than they were a few decades ago.
That is true, but countries with borders generally tend to start with
They
each
can.
other.
They can.
Anyway, it gets us out from being the cause of the nuclear.
That would be a good thing. Yes.
Now, so that's what I do. Is just comment. Well, I have nobody. I mean, I'm the chairman, chief executive officer, only member of the Neutralist Association of
Yeah.
the world. You're welcome to look at the website, which has very little on it.
Yeah.
But really, if you are not calling up everybody and say, we got to get out, we got to come home. Come
Oh,
home,
I
America,
totally agree with that. And that's one
then
of
we are the problem.
that is one of the
and-
big issues. That's one of the reasons why I know Maury and I have been doing a lot of the pro-Palestinian rallies in the last couple of weeks, and there's a lot of stuff going on, and we're also in the process of just starting up the petitioning campaign to get Jill on the ballot.
Go get
Jill
'em.
Stein. And as you probably are aware of, being Greens, she's very much in favor of ending these wars and
I know that,
doing all this, getting all the stupid stuff done, get it over before we kill each other.
I know that, but so is the Libertarian Party.
Oh yeah, and I have no problem with that too.
Um,
That's one of the things where I think the Libertarians and the Greens need to be working together.
Yeah.
And I'm so tired of the nonsense that we sometimes get that is more ideologically purist BS, rather than let's work on the issues that we agree on.
Well,
We have to, because it's really critical now.
it is critical.
Because we know that the Democrats and the Republicans are working on the issues they agree on, and they're not good for any of us.
No.
They're just good for their own pockets. And then, did you see this? That makes me think. Did you see the story was recently, within the last couple of days? I can't remember which source it was. I saw it online, where they were talking about probably responsible statecraft, where they were talking about the fact that the Democrats were applauding the fact that these recent wars have jacked up sales of weapons to other countries by 55%.
Oh yeah. I agree
That's
with it.
all this is about. They don't even
Oh, yeah.
they don't understand foreign policy. It's nothing about patriotism. It's never been about protecting America. It's all about selling weapons. It's all about stealing resources from other countries so they can make money
Of
at
course.
our expense.
Of course.
We are run by sociopathic criminals.
As
All
a-
of them.
As opposed to noble, sane criminals.
Yes, maybe.
Okay, so this is another thing that I don't really want to get into, but if you have any sympathy at watching all this happen, if you have any sympathy towards the concept of democracy or our democracy, but at this point, you got a problem, because our democracy is the problem.
Well, the problem is it's not a democracy.
When
That's
you
the
say,
problem.
when you say not a democracy, are you saying because we have electoral college?
No, it's because we're an oligarchy.
Well, that's
It's
true.
because our system for so long has had the facade fiction of a democracy. We have elections,
It's a managerial state.
but there's no real democracy, because
No.
repeatedly we've seen studies that show that the policy that Washington creates does not reflect what the people want.
Of course.
No
not.
matter what the polling says, Congress just gives us the finger.
Oh, of course. And,
Some of them say
wait a
the
minute.
right thing,
Wait a minute.
but they don't actually do anything that matters.
Wait a minute. I happen to know that my congressman, if I'm calling and the chairman of BlackRock is calling, he answers my phone first.
Yeah, I'm sure it is.
Of course. I mean,
Of course, you're not calling the congressman.
what?
Of course,
No,
you're not
I'm
calling a congressman.
Well, I'm not calling a congressman. I mean, that's a worthless quest.
For the
I-
same reason, I know that sending them emails, like I mentioned, sending them an email this morning, and I know I'll get at best a form letter,
Oh, yeah.
and that's it. I know I can almost guarantee they won't read it.
Well, I told you one time that I did contact Richie about the Prime Act. And I have thanks for writing. Never addressed the
Of course not. They never do.
No.
At this point, it's getting ridiculous. And
Yeah. So, as much as I don't approve of sortition, which is choosing the legislators by lot, I would prefer it to what we have now.
I agree. It would make a lot more sense. We at least have a lot more variety
Variety is
by
it.
by
May
a
not have
large
sense.
margin.
We may not have some. I just feel
We'd
that
have some very good. We'd have the broad spectrum of the American populace in there. Some of them would be really good at it. Some would be really bad at it. That's
And-
just the way it works. As opposed to most of them being bad at it now.
Well, the problem I have is I think that we would do it among the whole population, and I would say 75% of the people should not be anywhere near the legislature, but if you're going to do sortition, 75% of them will have just as much chance of the more adept top 25% of getting in. So I'm not advocating it as a policy, I'm just saying maybe it's not worse.
Well, I think it'd be better in the sense that, we know that the Congress currently represents the top maybe 5%.
Yeah.
They're almost all of them are millionaires.
Well,
if they don't start off as millionaires, they end up being one within a term or two.
Well, I looked up who gave money to Schumer and McConnell.
Oh yeah.
Basically the same people.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
If you look at the Senate list, all of them have taken money from AIPAC.
most
of the representatives have.
almost all of them, and they say, and they advertise 90% of the people we support win.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Now, that's why my concept, what we should have. We've done a show on it with Dick.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way to get money out of it, get it. Actually, the people who do become electors will be thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
But it ain't happening.
No, unfortunately not.
And I am not optimistic. If you said to me, within the year, what are the chances of nuclear war? I'd say 50%.
It's possible. I don't know if I could put a number on it. I think we're in a weird situation where we've got like 3 or 4 different paths right in front of us, and we're kind of trying to slide down all of them at the same time. One of them is that. One of them is social collapse, which I'd rather have than nuclear war. The other one, of course, is climate collapse, which wouldn't be beneficial, generally speaking. And there are ways I think we can fix all of these, at least I think most of the solutions for most of these kinds of issues are more on a local level than they are on a national or global scale. We're already seeing the global transport system slowly shut down, both with situations like what's going on in the Suez Canal and the Red Sea, and the fact that, for example, the Panama Canal basically can't take trips anymore.
That's true, but there have always been situations where they've had to work around I see it getting more expensive.
Oh, it is.
But I don't see it shutting down.
Well, I think it's not going to shut down immediately, but I think it's one of those things that are slowly. Our system is getting to the point where it's slowly so overburdened that it can't support itself anymore. A good comparison, for example, I was reading something from, I think it was John Michael Greer. It might have been Aurelian, where they were both talking about the similar issues about history and the future, and specifically they were looking at military capabilities going forward and how things change. And one of them was making the comparison where things sit now in our society with the Roman Empire maybe just before Adrianople, where Emperor Valens basically got a huge swath of what was left of the Roman army massacred by the Goths, I think they were, and a big part of that problem was the fact that the Roman army was so top heavy, it was so specialized, it was so corrupt, and it simply wasn't capable of dealing with a quote unquote barbarian force that was in practice more democratic. And our military is very much in that situation right now.
Yes.
We haven't yet seen Adrianople hit us, but it will.
Well, the other
What that will
the-
look like, I don't know yet.
The
but-
other factor that I've seen enunciated is that young men, are not joining the Army.
No.
And it
no.
used to be that people went in the Army to prove something. I
Yep.
think that's part of the reason I did it.
Mhm.
That wasn't the only reason. I certainly had drunk the Kool-Aid at the time.
Yeah, that's I
But-
think where most people go to.
People who would go in and be great special services
Mhm.
people don't want to be asked what's your pronouns.
Well, that's true, I suppose. Yeah.
And I think the whole politically correct identity politics in the military, yeah, I actually see it as more Tacitus at discussing the end of the Republic, in that, his famous quote, "A corrupt state has many laws."
Okay, that's true. yeah, that's probably true.
At some point, our reform has to come. And our
Yeah.
reform,
It does.
not my idea of a great reform, but the empire did reform a dying institution. But,
True.
But there were other times when Rome actually got a reform that worked.
True.
And that, like
That
Constantine's stripping of the temples to build an actual real currency. After Adrianople, Byzantine took over the empire. Byzantium took over the empire. Constantinople became a real place,
Yeah, that's true.
and revitalized itself.
Well, you see that kind of stuff happen through history
Yeah.
in various empires all over history.
I
in
don't-
many cases, very rarely do they reform from the center. They usually reform from the peripheries, where somebody on the outside suddenly looks back and realizes, why am I bothering to support these clowns? I can do it better myself, and they do it.
Well, let's hope it's a wise person.
I hope so. I
But
mean, I think,
I watched Durbin, the senator,
yeah, I know
and he's a clown.
most of them are.
He's absolutely a clown. He's
Unfortunately.
talking about why we have to open the southern border so we can recruit soldiers. What you're recruiting is mercenaries.
Oh, absolutely. That's what we're
Now-
doing now anyway.
Well, I remember when they entered it. I was you were probably knee-high to a pratfall when I was in the Army, if you were existing at all,
When were you in the Army?
1971 to 1973.
I was born in 71.
Okay, so you remember everything that happened. Anyway,
I know some of the history. Don't
and-
remember it very well.
anyway, I remember when we ended the draft, and they started building a recruit army.
Right.
Now, any army that is not of the general population, like the Swiss army,
Yeah.
is a mercenary army.
Basically, that's true.
They may be patriots, they may be super patriots,
Yep.
they may be better patriots than you or me, or they may be just grifters.
Right.
But it's still a mercenary army.
Basically, yeah, I agree.
Then,
Yeah.
if you open the floodgates and you let anybody in to join, you'll give them the 2-hour block of instruction on why you should be a patriot, and they're going to fall asleep.
Sometimes I think they get, I mean, you look at historically speaking, that there's some truth to that. But I think historically speaking, you'll find that many cases, many of the empires of history, and I think specifically if you look like in the Muslim world, a lot of them based their armies entirely on slave soldiers. They were always mercenaries. And they almost always turned on their government after a while.
Yes, that's my point.
Yes.
Exactly my point. This government will do it in record time. The force that we build will do it in record time.
It
Why
could.
wouldn't they?
You're right, it could.
And Durbin, that you got on by like Max Boot.
He's an
Of
idiot.
course, he wrote the book. Uncle Sam Wants Two, TU, the Spanish
Okay.
review. Meaning we should enlist these people.
No, I get it.
Because he's an imperialist.
He's an idiot, yeah. I know.
Please be kind.
He's an imperialist, absolutely. But if I can go back to the pronouns thing for a second, is that I think the issue in the military is a little bit less of that and more of the fact that I think a lot of people recognize that when the people that they know who have been in the military and are seeing things that, if at least more in recent years, that I think they're seeing how badly mistreated the average people in the military are these days by our government.
Speaking of badly mistreating, we have badly mistreated the time, and we are over.
Oh, okay.
So at this point, thank you very much. We hope to be here next month.
That would be nice.
We'll see how the wars go. This has been Richard Morchoe and Gus Steeves.
Contact our representatives and senators and tell them to stop the war before they do something profoundly stupid.
This has been the Long Hill Report. Yeah, okay, like that's going to make a difference.
It might help some. It's better than not doing anything.
The man is hopeful. He's a saint. I've already opened.
I never said I was a saint.
I've already sent a letter to the Holy Father asking him to open a case for canonization for Gus, which gives you an idea of what I think about the whole idea. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
They will not. They'll canonize me shortly after the canonized state.